gang, and welcome to Planet Beer TV and another episode of our Meet the Breweries series. This week, Dave sat down with one of the best producers of wild and mixed fermentation beers in the UK, the brilliant Pastore. As ever, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and get more quality craft beer content. Enjoy.
So we're at Hall Beer Shop in Stourbridge, and we've been joined by the founder of Sour and Mixed Ferm King Pastore Brewing and Blending, Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Very good, thanks, Dave.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Now, you started your business the year before the pandemic took hold, so you must have seen a lot of changes in the last couple of years.
We certainly have, yeah. I mean, obviously a crazy time when you think back and look back, as has been for everyone. But yeah, as if it wasn't exciting enough, just setting up a brewery and trying to build a business, trying to do it in the midst of a pandemic, clearly added some excitement. I think, looking back, and this is something Ben, my son, who's also head brewer and founder of the business, have discussed a lot. In many ways, it actually maybe helped us. We'd just begun to become a little bit well known. We were selling quite a bit of beer, and we were having to ramp up production. And to be frank, we're looking back, I could really see we were having to run before we could really walk. Yeah. And actually, one of the things that counterintuitively the pandemic did for us was, yes, we had to change direction of the business, a little bit to accommodate the new reality. But it did allow us to kind of slow things down. It just reined you in that little bit. Absolutely did, yeah. And when I look back to particularly that first year, 2020, which was effectively, we started production in August 2019. But by the end of 2020, I think we had really found out what it was we did and how to do it well. And I think that was not the case at the beginning of the pandemic. So at which point, was it during the lockdown that you started putting your beer into cans, or had you done that previously? We'd already started on the road of doing small pack, but thank goodness, right? Because as everyone will know, very quickly overnight it became a case. That's what you had to do. You've got to put it in small pack. So we had that up and running, and we were on that track already, thank goodness. But yeah, it actually is just learning that, being able to put beer into small pack consistently, month in, month out, to a high quality, hit the targets, hit the dates. Yeah, that takes it takes a bit of experience. It turns out, right? We weren't great at it, but back end of 2019, but at the back end of 2020, we'd learned how to do it a lot better. So what was it like going into a market with so many other breweries and people well established in the sour and mixed ferm scene? What was it like joining them and taking them on? Yeah, it was just amazing. Wow. I've yet to meet anyone who's really got a bad word to say about the craft brewing industry, and I think with good reason, right? In most facets, at least, right? Certainly, coming into the business, we just met so many friendly people who would unstintingly give of their time, their experience, their know-how, friendly, welcoming. It just, a wonderful industry to be part of. Long may it continue. And you've been doing loads of collaborations, just recently, actually. Yeah, we have. So, collaborations, from quite early on, it was fun to make contacts, talk to different breweries and brewers and find things we had in common and things we'd like to do together. So from quite early on, we kind of got into doing collaborations. They absolutely loved doing those. This week, it's been absolutely awesome. We spent, or Ben, actually, my son, was up in Edinburgh at the start of the week. He went to... I'm very jealous. Yeah. Vault City. Absolutely, Vault City. He was there for the day and helped with a collaboration there. That was kind of the return leg, or for us, the away leg of a kind of a pair of collabs we've done with Vault City, with a home leg for us was done back end of last year. So Stephen from Vault City came down. We brewed a dark sour, which actually, we didn't know how it was going to turn out, but often the way with collabs, you go into different ideas, different thoughts, and you think, well, let's try something a bit different here. And the Vault City one last year was absolutely brilliant. That worked beautifully. I think a lot of people are probably really fascinated by how the idea of a collab works, because there was collabs going on during the pandemic, for example, and I guess they worked purely by email because you couldn't go to each other's brewery. But out of the pandemic, how does that work now? What goes on? You just sit around drinking all day, or who gets involved in what? I think people need to know this. Yeah, fair enough. Collabs. Ultimately, it is a marketing thing, right? What happens is You kind of agree, you probably agree up front roughly what you've got to buy the ingredients, get the raw materials, everything lined up, right? So, up front, ahead of time, you'll be chatting, conversing on email, whatever it might be, and agreeing what it is you're going to brew together. Then on the day, the brewers will meet up at the host brewery, and then essentially the home brewer is in charge, obviously. It's their kit, their brewery, and they will brew the beer. The visitors, are part of the scene that day, hanging out, trying some different beers, having some discussions, meetings. They'll make a token part of the brewing process. Traditionally, it's mashing out, digging out the mash tun. You always see the picture. Yeah, absolutely got to do that.
So it's almost about forging great relationships with the breweries as much as the product itself.
Very, very definitely, right. And I look back. I've enjoyed all the collabs that I've been lucky enough to be part of. Both home and away for us. And you meet fabulous people. You often meet different people from the folks you meet out on the festival circuits, perhaps, or in the bars and bottle shops. When you go to a brewery, you'll often meet more of the production folks. And it's part of the journey of being in the craft beer industry is getting out and about and seeing how people do things and learning, picking up, trading ideas. And I think the collabs are great for that.
So you've got some beers here today with us. Why don't you tell us about these, because these look amazing.
Right. I'm going to tell you all about these, but first I'm going to start perhaps a little bit more background to the ranges we do, if that's okay.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, because we're kind of going to work my way up to...
Yeah, these are the top of the scale, in fact,
exactly, yes. So essentially we started off very much with our mission being sour and mixed ferm beer. Okay, that's what we set up to do. We wanted to specialise, well, not just specialise, we were going to do that, as our core business. We had no intention of brewing any clean beers, as they're called, right? So it was all about mixed ferm, it was all about sour. We knew from early on it's going to be heavily reliant on fruiting. So we had to kind of get a process in place. We had to work out what yeasts, what souring agents or bacteria we were going to use. And so when we launched back in 2019, the first range we kind of became known for was our so-called Waterbeach Weisse.
Yeah, I remember the first time I had one of those. They're one of the beers that got me into the whole sour thing.
Awesome.
So they do a very good job. You could almost call them your core range, I guess, now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So Waterbeach Weisse, for those who don't know, it's a 3.8%, so relatively low ABV. It's kind of Berliner Weisse style. We brew it obviously at Waterbeach, hence the name. It's Pilsner malt, wheat malt. We ferment with Quake Horningdahl, and we add Lactobacillus plantarum in there. That's the souring agent. So after 3 or 4 days of a 30-degree fermentation, we've got a kind of a tasty, pretty sour beer. Okay, and at this stage was no fruit. We then transfer it onto fruit puree, typically 200 grams per litre. So that's a lot of fruit. And the beer will sit there for another 2 to 3 weeks before it's ready to chill and package. And that's basically, that kind of template is actually underpins all of our, what we call our fresh range. These are the beers that you'll see typically in kegs and in cans around the country. And these beers are pretty much done to that template. So Waterbeach Weisses, 3.8%. We do, what else do we do? We do pastry sours where we kind of amp it up, right? Where we're coming in at 6%, 7%, 9%. We're often adding adjuncts to those to kind of, try and, marry the beer in with a style of a particular cake or pastry or something. I think you're drinking a Cornuto, which is one of our pastry sours out currently. That's raspberry. It's a raspberry ripple, effectively. It's raspberry
my
vanilla.
Goodness, this does not taste like 9%, I should say.
Great beer. We enjoy making those. People love them around the country.
What fascinates me is you mentioned the village where you're based. I've been there, tiny little place. How did the people of Waterbeach, how do they get on with your beer? Because that's not traditional sour drinking country, is it?
It's not at all. And it's funny, we've got just behind us good friends, Milton Brewery, who are a more traditional. Real ale brewery, very well known in the Cambridge area. And so you kind of got these two breweries backing one onto the other.
So far apart.
Poles apart, exactly. And you do get people coming to one expecting the other. With interesting results.
Yeah, I bet.
But actually, it's been great. The good folk in Waterbeach have been coming to the tap room, really supporting us. We always make sure we've got a Pilsner, a Pale Ale or something on. A lot of people, they try a sour beer, always very open to trying it, we find. Many will say, do you know what, not for me. Others were loving it, right? And it is great.
I think a lot of people are scared of sour beers when they don't need to.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's interesting. I mean, the word sour, I mean, we're taught from a young age that it's a kind of a negative thing. It's not something you want. But yeah, I mean, often it's just getting past that kind of negative perceptions. And when people actually try it, in my experience, they want to come back and they want to explore. And it isn't just Waterbeach where we see this. We did a lot of pretty big craft beer festivals last year, for example, last summer, where, people who paid big bucks for their ticket were coming in, drinking pale ales, hazy IPAs, all the rest of it, coming to us, and we're like, whoa, what is this?
This is a step too far for me.
Yeah, and many people didn't get it, didn't like it. Others loved it. So yeah, it's a really interesting time.
You mentioned your tap room there. So your tap room, how long's it been going for?
We had an initial opening way back when we first launched in November 2019. Had an awesome night with a DJ and all kicking off. But actually last year we were kind of opening through the summer and gradually found, as well as I want to say real Pastore fans who were coming from far and wide to try a beer, much as yourself. Thanks for coming. We then found more and more people from the local village were dropping by and enjoying hanging out there, enjoying the space. Beginning to appreciate the beer. Yeah. And so, this year we're definitely making a push. We've hired a taproom manager, Hayley, who begins with us soon. She's going to be, making it, a really thriving part of the Waterbeach scene. And
you'll be going from opening one Saturday a month to
we're going to weekly, Friday evening, Saturday daytime probably to begin with, and we're going to start boshing out those Saturdays. So shall we return to beer? Because we got massively sidetracked. I do want to talk about these. So I talked about the Waterbeach Weisse, I talked about the Pastry Sour. Another thing that we then did was on the same canned range, using the same basic template of the Horningdal Kvike, the Lactobacillus to sour it. We wanted to do a sour IPA. So this would be a beer, in our original mind, it was a beer that wouldn't be fruited. It'd be dry hopped. Mm-hmm. You can't really use a lot of hopping at the same time as you're trying to sour a beer because the two things kind of don't get on together and you won't end up with any sourness. So we don't have any hops in our boil. But we thought, well, let's make our standard kind of sour beer and then let's dry hop it. And in fact, one of the very early beers we launched was Playa de Agua, which got rave reviews back in 2019. People loved, we were blown away by this sour IPA, the massive dry hop characteristics people are used to in pale ales or IPAs, but with an acidity there. So we've kind of come back to that repeatedly, and we it's kind of part of our range now. So once every month or two, we'll make a new release of a sour IPA, and it's a range I love. It was a kind of initially inspired by Bellwoods. I don't know if you know Bellwoods. It's kind of Ontario, Toronto brewer, and they do a beer called Jelly King. And thoroughly recommend you look up Jelly King. Try and get hold of some. The Jelly King Sour IPA was one of those beers when we first tasted it. Ben and I, we were like, wow, that's amazing.
That's what we want to be making.
That's the beer I want to make, and I want to drink, and I want to keep drinking that. And so that was one of many things in the industry and from other brewers that really inspired us and kind of motivated us to try things out, to push the boundaries. And so very, very proud of our sour IPAs. We've actually started doing sour IPAs with fruit as well. So you kind of got a whole interplay of fruit and dry hop, which is actually fascinating. You can kind of really match them up.
You really get the idea of how much experimentation there is going on with Pastore. It never stands still.
No, absolutely. Every month there's new things to try, new things we want to try. I mean, some of them just hit the spot. They work splendidly. I remember a collab we did with Burnt Mill. They brought all their IPA, dry hopping expertise. We brought the sour know-how, and we made a beer we actually put on grapefruit. And it was this, it just, for whatever reason, the combination of hops that Burnt Mill brought to the party with the fruit that we had and our sour agents and the kind of acidity we got into our beer, it just worked beautifully. And that was one of the standout beers from last year for me. So the whole sour IPA thing, absolutely love it. But all of those beers, this is really what we call our fresh range. As I say, these are the beers where we sour them, we possibly fruit them or dry hop them, we put them in cans. But we've got the wild side of our business and the barrel age. That's where the blending really comes in.
I had great fun when I was in your tap room, walking around and counting up all the barrels everywhere. 31 barrels, I think.
31 barrels, right. Yeah, that sounds right. So, 31 barrels. We brew typically a few variants of what amounts to a saison. style beer. We do a golden one, we do a dark one. We ferment them with a saison yeast. They're lightly hot. And then these beers go into these barrels. And we have all sorts. We have red wine barrels, white wine barrels.
You're not scared to try anything?
Bourbon, some pretty cool barrels we had out there. So but the thing is, you put these beers in there. We dose these beers. So at this point, these beers, the saison it's a clean beer, right? It hasn't had any wild yeast, any Brettanomyces or anything sour near it. But when it goes in the barrel, well, who knows firstly what's in the barrel or has been in the barrel. Yeah. But more importantly, we usually dose it with our mother culture. This is a key part of our brewing journey and what we do at Pastore.
And this is something you've been working on for some time.
It is. Yeah, no, absolutely. Ben and I actually first built this kind of culture as part of our homebrew system going back, I don't know, 5-6 years or more. And we had a little 30-litre carboy with this beer. We put in some dregs from lovely American wild ales we loved and sour beers. And we let it ferment. We just left it. We topped it up with other things. We eventually cultured or caught some wild yeasts from our back garden, actually, in Cambridgeshire, added them to the mix. And actually, over time, this became a beautiful kind of base blending sort of option for our beers. We found it, we got this lovely flavour, this acidity that was just really, really lovely and soft, but noticeable. And so that mother beer, when we started Pastore, we kind of scaled it up from the 30-litre cowboy to now a 1,500 litre tank with this amazing mother beer in it. And I can't resist occasionally going to a brewery and just saying, let's see how it's doing today, and like having a little sip. It's beautiful. And that's this mother beer we basically dose into a lot of our saisons. It goes into the barrels, and it's that which creates the acidity, the wild.
And that's why when we taste one of your beers, the more and more you have, you can notice it's a Pastore beer.
Yeah, very distinct. You're right. I mean, a lot of wild breweries, a lot of sour breweries do have a very distinctive house style, and it ultimately probably does come from their culture and the yeast they're using, and yeah, you can kind of notice it and recognise it after a while. And true of ours. So really, this leads us to the bottles you're looking at here. This is a.
I can't take my eyes off these.
Yeah, I know. This is amazing. This is a collaboration we've done with with Distant Lands, who are our distributor or one of our distributors in the UK. They helped us get hold of some Frederiksdal or Stevensbeer cherries from Frederiksdal in Denmark. We got barrels as well from them. So Frederiksdal make cherry wine, very, very well-renowned wine using their cherries. We got some of these barrels. We put our beer in it, we let it sit there for a year, we brought it out, we then blended it onto some of the actual Stevensbeer cherries that we got from Denmark, let that sit for a couple of months, bottled it to produce this. And it's got everything you'd want. It's luscious, it's got the sour, the acidity.
So the whole process of creating this beer from start to finish, that took best part of 18
months, yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes through, even after we've packaged it, we condition it for another 2 months and to get to the point where we think, yeah, this is good enough to release now. And it's due to release, this spring.
So we talked a little bit about how the tap room is going to step up and it'll be opening every week. What else is in store for Pastore in the future?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's hard to plan a month ahead, let alone any longer. But what we're really looking to do, we spent a lot of time, I guess, in the first 2 years of our existence, kind of developing, consolidating the fresh range. You know, the Waterbeach Weisses, the pastry sours, the beers that go in the cans. I think what we're finding now is the wild side of what we do, the blending, the bottled beers are really taking off and becoming something we want to put more weight behind. And it's just such an awesome range of things what we can do there. So, for example, I think I've spoken a bit about the cherry beer here, but yeah, we've got a fantastic set of wine hybrid beers due for release shortly. Wow. We work with an urban winery, Gutter and Stars in Cambridge. We get they use pressed grapes from them. We put our beer on that, and some amazing flavour profiles coming out of that programme. Also, Cambridgeshire is turning out to be quite a cool place. There's a sake. There are 2 sake producers in Cambridgeshire, run by Japanese families or individuals, and one of them, Sparkling Sake Company, making really cool stuff, and he brings down his kasu, sake lees, and it's great. They use it for cooking in Japan, but yeah, we put some saison on it, some mother beer. We let it sit for a while. It turns out it makes a great beer. So that's something, yet another example of a kind of thing we can do with our blending program.
It's almost like the sky's the limit. You can keep creating forever.
I think it is, and I do think, I mean, it's still early days, but I think over the next few years we're going to see real growth and appreciation of these more complex beers. We're going to see the growth of beers being paired with foods and becoming more of a, an item, a thing on restaurants rather than just an afterthought. Oh, you can have a bottle of Peroni if you want. No, I think tastes are going to move beyond that, and I think mixed firm, wild beers, blended beers are in a great position to capitalise on that.
And would you ever want Pastore to get really big, or are you happy with the size of it?
We're all about organic growth. We have no dreams to be big. We love what we do. We're a family business. We want to keep it that way.
Right, before we let you go, we've got a series of quickfire questions for you. Favourite British brewery?
Oh, wow. Little Earth Project.
Favourite style of beer?
God, it's impossible to answer. I'm gonna go out beer.
Biggest craft beer influence on Pastore?
Ooh. I mentioned Jelly King before. I'm going to go with that. Jelly King from Bellwoods in Ontario.
Favourite Pastore beer?
Oh my word. It will be Il Vigneto, a wine hybrid we did last year, knockout.
Favourite craft beer producing country?
An easy answer, US.
Chris, thanks very much for joining us. Much appreciated. Cheers. And be sure to join us soon for more craft beer content here on Planet Beer TV.